Man, we always tend to look for fairy tale endings in the world after lovely stories. The 2020 Formula One season has been quite the story. The way we've managed to squeeze in so many races under 161 days, it's been amazing. But let's say it was not the most entertaining of endings, mind you. Nevertheless, we're here to dissect exactly what happened. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Inside Line Formula One podcast and to Pits to Podium on YouTube. Once again, it's your hosts, Kunal, Shah, and Soumil Arora. Kunal, you might know him at this stage. He's the man who knows everything in Formula One. He's been a racing driver before. He's worked as the head of marketing at Force India. Now works as a motorsport consultant for the VS Sport Network in Norway. What you're getting here is one man who knows exactly what he's talking about. And that is something that we will need today, Kunal, because a very interesting thing is that 2020 essentially has been a year where all of us have been under a safety car period. We've been having to wait for a while under scrutiny, under lockdown, with everyone bunched up together. And the same has been the case in Formula One, too. I think 12 out of the 17 races have featured a safety car. But the one thing that we discussed right before recording is that today's race is one where the safety car essentially broke down any sort of entertainment that we seem to have.
Yes, Soumil, absolutely. But firstly, thank you for the introduction. Okay, you say that I know a lot of things in Formula One.
I
I
do.
still don't know. I still don't know why Ferrari didn't pit their drivers under the safety car period. Okay, but at the same time, it's a pleasure to be sharing the stage with you, given all your, all your fantastic commentary stints that you anyway do in the racing network that you've been working so hard with. But Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, well, what can I say? At the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that had we not had a safety car period, okay, we may have probably had a more entertaining race, as the
Yeah.
season finale, and that's because that's what I believe, because the safety car came in at a time where it allowed most drivers to literally just convert the race into a one stopper. uh, you know and this is for those who are on the mediums, for those who are on the softs. And Pirelli always thought that it would be a two stopper, but each time Pirelli says, hey, this race is going to be an X stopper, I think it's important for us to remember it to be X minus one pretty much at all the times we possibly can.
They've just been making their compounds harder. They've been trying to make them softer, mind you. They want more stops, but it just does not happen for some reason. And it was just like the ultimate moment for the teams when they saw the safety car and it was just like, okay, job done today. If everything stays the way it is, nothing to worry about. Season, it ends 30 laps earlier. That's what essentially happened today. Which leads us very well to our very first question, because we genuinely don't have enough competitors for this one. Which the podium moment, Kunal. Well, what do
Hey,
we do?
what do we do? Okay, I think I would say I'll opt for a reverse moment. Okay,
Ah,
and I sorry, I'm turning your question around, but it's a podium to pits moment, and I think it was the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in itself. And I don't think that the season finale was fitting enough for the kind of a season we've had in
yeah.
2020, with the kind of races, with the kind of competition we've had, right? So it was just one of those races where by the third lap we were like, oh my god, we have 52 more laps of this to undergo. And everyone was praying for the safety car, and like I said, when it came, it just took away all the entertainment. And at some point, later on in the next few minutes, we can actually discuss why that safety car pretty much ruined the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix as well. So that's my podium to pits moment, and I'm dying to hear if you have a pits to podium or a podium to pits moment to share.
Ah, this is a tricky one. Right. Okay. Give me 10 seconds. Let's not take 10 seconds. You know, there's nothing in store. Let's talk about what really happened now. So far into this video, and it's been a fair bit, we have not yet mentioned the race winner, Max Verstappen. Second win of the season for him. Uh, I still have questions about why Mercedes were not quick enough. Uh, of course, Mercedes did seem to just slack off a little bit. They didn't need to put in that much effort because it's all sealed and dusted. Even if Valtteri Bottas wouldn't have won, which he didn't eventually, he kept his P2. And Verstappen, almost symbolically, taking home his P3 chair before the race began. That is exactly what happened, except this time he got to the top step of the podium. One thing that defined the race for me, Kunal, was I think one very small phrase in Hindi. It's the phrase "jage ho," which roughly translates to "Are you still awake?" Because Verstappen, once he took control, he was just in cruise control, wasn't he? Verstappen aside, we know he's Max Verstappen, right? To give him the leeway, he'll just pounce on. That's not abnormal. We know what he can do. But why were Mercedes not on the pace today?
A couple of reasons. Maybe the fact that Mercedes just were unable to unlock more pace. Okay, that's probably what could have been. Valtteri Bottas said in one of his post-race press conferences that Mercedes was faster on the medium tire, but
Hmm.
Red Bull was faster on the softer tire. And then, of course, to be on top in qualifying, you need to be fast on the softer tire. So that was probably one of the reasons that Mercedes just did not unlock as much pace.
Hmm.
The second, which seems more probable, is that Mercedes before the race tuned down power for all their cars that they were powering, because they had some gremlin sitting inside the MG UK. So for reliability reasons, they sort of turned down all the Mercedes powered cars. So that could be one of the reasons. And again, another attribution we can make to the fact is that Mercedes literally stopped developing their 2020 car 2 or 3 months ago out of the 5.5 months we've been racing this year. So several reasons why they were probably unable to match Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing. And usually the races when Mercedes is challenged and Max is ahead is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was again one of those examples that, hey, domination by any team and driver can be boring, whether it's Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, or of the previous era Sebastian Vettel.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Domination in the world of sport can be a bit too boring. And speaking of Mercedes, Kunal, I just remembered, can we ever have BOP in the world of Formula One? Now, for those of you who are not big sports car racing fans, BOP is balance of performance, where, because of course you've got different design philosophies in so many sports car races, that you have to tinker around to make sure that they're all in the same field. One very popular way of doing BOP, Kunal, is by reducing the fuel flow limit and making sure that the power of the engine is cut down. Voluntarily BOP, perhaps in this case? Well, maybe that's the solution we need to make sure that Mercedes don't win too often. And good, well-timed safety cars. That's the one thing we have to speak about.
Well, then we'll also do what Bernie Eccleston said, right? Just put sprinklers on the circuit. Then we can
Sprinklers
bring in
on.
all the reverse grids. Then we can do whatever it takes to slow them down. But I'm pretty hopeful that not 2022 at least, but say 23 and 24, and that's really 4 or 5 seasons from now when all the performance sort of would come into an equalizer with the budget cap and the various things that that are coming in store in the coming season. So that's the only way Mercedes could, literally be contained, and that's some hope that we can have, for the future, Soumil. But I'm going to take this time to just sort of explain over the next couple of minutes why we think that the safety car
Hmm.
sort of ruined the race in some ways, because the big highlight of the race, of course, was Max Verstappen getting pole, right, and the two Mercedes drivers behind him, and Alexander Albon getting fourth place, right? So suddenly it was like, wow, it's two teams versus two teams, and can Alexander Albon really be the wingman Max Verstappen could get? And that was one question. The second was, what could Mercedes strategically do
Hmm.
with the two drivers second and third to sort of jump Max for the race? So of course Alex was not really the wingman, although he was right there but not quite there.
Yeah.
But the safety car took away this chance of Mercedes using their two drivers strategically to try and get the jump on Max. And we've
Hmm.
seen this before. Lewis in P3 goes longer than Max and Bottas in P1 and P2, and then he
Yeah.
just builds up a sizable advantage to still pit and come out ahead of them. And that's pretty much what I thought would happen, but the safety car took that away from us. So that's one of the reasons why I would say it ruined it. Of course, the safety car, and this is more to do with Ferrari's choice of strategy. They chose to not pit both their drivers under the safety car, and we both saw how it worked out for them. Charles was on, like I tweeted, Charles was on the Kimi Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel strategy. Okay, and it just took a fair bit away from us from the race, I would say, Samuel.
At this stage, I don't even have to say anything. You just know. You just know. We thought that Binotto staying home would make a positive difference. And it did, so far. We did see three races where Ferrari were doing a good job. I don't even know what they were thinking at this stage. Now, I have the privilege of sitting in a very well air conditioned room in a nice and comfy chair, just having the liberty to say all these bad things about Ferrari. It's a different thing to do that in perspective. Let's be very honest about that. But considering the way things were going, I think normally they should have pit right. Let's be honest about this one. So, bad call. Leclerc was falling down. He literally dropped down positions to everyone that he could find. Eventually, there's this very funny moment in the race canal where George Russell and Charles Leclerc were fighting. And yes, if you look at it from a broader perspective, Ferrari versus future Mercedes driver, they could be fighting for podiums. What are they fighting for? P15. Oh, it was that kind of a race. But
Yeah.
that baffling strategy call aside, Kunal, there was one big thing about Mercedes that I was a bit perplexed about. Mercedes chose not to split up the strategies. They chose to do the double stack. Now, it essentially is clubbing everyone together to make sure that both your drivers have equal opportunities. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that Mercedes just going a bit too soft because it's the final race? Because otherwise, had they not double stacked, Hamilton was obviously going to get the advantage in that case. And then they could have gone on and chased for the win. But they thought Hamilton's already won the championship. He doesn't need that win. If anything, we need to give Bottas an equal opportunity. And that's why they double stacked. Was that the reason why they went a bit more? They went for the more mellow strategy in that case.
Well, personally, first hats off to Mercedes for still doing the double stack, because
Hmm.
just last Sunday it was the double
Exactly.
stack that cost them, major things, and just goes to show, you have to choose process over result. You know that double stacking is the right thing to do. You got it wrong once doesn't mean you'll get it wrong all the time, and that's a great life lesson that we just had from Mercedes in
Absolutely.
the 2020 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But had they not double stacked and had they sort of split strategies, maybe they would have been more inconvenienced with their second driver. Maybe the loss would have been higher. And as you can see, Charles Leclerc and was on the same strategy. And I have my strategy sheet open here. He was on the medium tire, and had Lewis Hamilton gone as long on his medium, there is no guarantee that he would have even gotten a podium at that point. Of course, the
Exactly.
chances of him climbing up would have been higher. So I think Mercedes on a double stack was actually pretty good. Also, I think Formula One should have done this, but several other teams also did a double stack, including Carlos Sainz Jr. and
Yes.
McLaren. And it's great to show that, hey, double stacking is fairly common for pretty much all the 10 teams in the pit lane. And my mind also then goes to the Sainz Stroll incident that they had, with regards to the unsafe release and unnecessarily slow driving in the pit lane and so on. But hey, it was a battle for P3, and Abu Dhabi, if nothing else, has seen how driving slowly eventually keeps you ahead in the championship. So it happened for McLaren this weekend, and it happened to Nico Rosberg in 2016.
Oh, Vitaly Petrov in 2010 as well. This circuit has seen its fair share. It's been a lot. But a question about the whole McLaren Racing Board incident, because it did eventually have a significant impact on their bank balances, mind you. That's the one thing we're coming up to immediately after this one. Was it really slow driving by Carlos Sainz? Was it really trying to impede Lance Stroll? Just in case you didn't know by this stage, McLaren RP3, they have done it after what 2012. That's the first time they're in the top three of the championship. uh, After we discuss the whole thing about the Carlos Sainz incident was really driving slow, we can also expand a little bit about uh, the implications of this, how much they're winning by finishing B3.
Well, it's a lot of money in the Constructors' Championship, and I don't have the number offhand, but the fact is that they will get a higher share in the from the common pool, because there are lots of Constructor Championship bonuses and historic bonuses that even McLaren get, not to the tune of what Ferrari
Of
anyway end
course.
up getting. And I'm pretty sure by the end of this all, even for finishing P6, Ferrari will still make more money than the teams ahead of them. But talking of P3 for McLaren, and I think it's great testimony to the team that they've rebuilt. They've announced a new investment coming in.
Yeah.
They're a supercar manufacturer themselves, so life and businesses must be tough in COVID-19. As we know, they were going to do a sale and lease back for their factory. They've had American investors announced this morning. They've got Daniel Ricciardo joining them, so it's been a fairly great upswing in the business side and the racing side of things for McLaren. And truth be told, it's they don't have a third fastest car at their potential or at their disposal. What they've done is they've unlocked potential with both drivers consistently weekend after weekend, and that's the reason why they're in P3, Somal.
That's an excellent point, Kunal. Maybe it's just a slight giveaway of what Racing Point's weakness has been this year. And with Sergio Perez having that really, really unfortunate technical error, worst way to go out after such a long and emotional relationship, which just peaked 1 week ago. Bad way to go. Which reminds me, Sundaram from our team has come up with an excellent observation, let's put it that way, where every Grand Prix winner, every first time Grand Prix winner this season, that's Gasly and Sergio Perez, have had a retirement in the initial laps of the very next race. And a great proportion of the Grand Prix, first time Grand Prix winners within the hybrid era, have had retirements in the very next race of winning their first ever race. A baffling narrative again, Kunal, but that's just how things have been going.
Yeah, that's how things have been going, and that's what Sundaram and Nityanand are so beautiful in
Yeah.
doing, digging into such stats and observations. And that's why, we've got such fantastic listeners like, Shil Patel. Thank you for writing to us on Instagram and telling us how
Indeed.
much you love what we do on Pits to Podium. A big thanks also to Lucian for his amazing tunes, Soumil. So lots to look forward to for the next few minutes that we'll still speak and for the off season.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I'll just be stepping back for a second in terms of my thoughts because it's been such a tricky year, this one. We've had so many people supporting, listening. Firstly, all of our crew members at Pits to Podium, then all of you who listen and write to us. It's genuinely such a fascinating thing to see that you have people who listen to your opinions and you really enjoy it. And the best part is they're not just listening and saying, take it. They're doing what they're doing. That engagement level keeps us motivated to do even better. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being engaged and involved. It really keeps us on our toes, and it just pushes us to make out the best podcast and the best video that we can for you. So it's genuinely very heartwarming. If you can, drop in a text all the time. We'll be here. We'll try to respond as much as possible. And also, Kunal, it reminds me, end of the year, we have crowned winners for the Pits to Podium Grand Prix prediction competition. We won't reveal it here. The winners are going to be on social media, but that's been something pretty amazing, hasn't it?
It has, and I'm usually the worst when it comes to making Grand Prix predictions, and it's amazing to see how some of the top 10 guys get it right so frequently. This is one thing I've been bad at ever since the time I saw my first race. I don't know if I think too much with my head or my heart, or I don't think at all, but it's just something I'm really bad at.
And that video is going to come up on Pits to Podium very shortly. So we'll give you a bit of insight about what's happening. We're trying to push out everything before Christmas. So we shall have an interview with all the winners of the competition coming up as well, including another really special video, a team roundup of the entire season. And that's going to be a fun podcast. And we're going to split that up into different videos for YouTube. So we're going to have really fun categories like the most improved driver, most disappointing driver as well, maybe best moment, or the most facepalm moment as well. We're deciding on what categories to take into account, but that should be one very fun podcast or video, depending on what platform you're using to watch or listen.
Yes, it's going to be much more fun than the 2020 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We can assure you that, right? But
Yes.
some other points that I've actually written, Somil, and surprisingly or not surprisingly, Kimi Raikkonen was the fastest Ferrari-powered car in Abu Dhabi. I mean, at least in terms of race classification, right? Uh, Charles Leclerc had a grid penalty,
Yeah.
but like we said, he was on the Kimi Raikkonen strategy that cost him, points. And surprisingly, and I have the points sheet open with me, Charles has scored 1 point in the last three races, right?
Ooh.
and he has dropped. He was the biggest loser. He has dropped from sixth to eighth place in the Drivers' Championship. He's behind Albon and behind Carlos Sainz Jr., right? And Carlos Sainz Jr. has had such a consistent run since Germany. He didn't score in Russia and he didn't score in Italy, but since Germany.
Carlos Sainz, Italy. I think he got a podium in Italy, didn't he?
So I meant, sorry, the second race
Ah, okay,
in
okay.
Italy. Yes. So
Got
after
slightly
Monza.
confused.
Yes, yes. Sorry, there's so many.
So
But
many
thanks for
Italian
correcting.
races.
Yes. So Carlos went with his point scoring spree. He has gone from, he was down in 11th in the championship and he's finished sixth, right?
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure Ferrari are pretty kicked that they are hiring him when he has such fantastic momentum in his career in Formula One.
A lot of it depends on the car as well. I'm not sure Carlos Sainz is feeling the most upbeat about this, but if you're Ferrari, you've got a steal, haven't you? You've attracted him to the team with the lure of Ferrari, not the car. Had he been thinking with the mind, except at least for the first couple of seasons, would have been a bad idea. But knowing Ferrari, we know that they can bounce back eventually. With all the resources that they have, they don't often end up creating cars that start with an SH and end with a box. You know the word. Let's not pretend that they don't. Everyone's washed and trashed. But finally, Kunal, before we go, lots of narratives coming to a close here. It's been a season
Right.
with multiple different things, many stories weaving around across the year. We were firstly discussing how and if it would be possible to have a season at all. Then we saw Hamilton's dominance. Then we saw the midfield racing points copying gate, or tracing point gate. Let's put it that way, coming up into perspective as well. What do you think is in store in 2021? Now, 2021 was supposed to be the big year. It's turned into a stopgap year. Do you expect more of the same or something else?
So I'll add one more thing to what
Uh-huh.
we saw in 2020. For the first time in 2020, we saw Lewis Hamilton drive a Valtteri Bottas-esque race, and
He
that's what he
did.
did in Abu Dhabi. He absolutely couldn't make a dent into Bottas or Max Verstappen's lead. So that was also one of the things. Yes, we are sounding a little harsh for a driver who's just come out of COVID and has been saying that, wow, I'm really drained, but just putting it out there on a lighter note. But talking of 2021, what I'm really looking forward to is, the new drivers that are going to come in. Danny Kvyat, announced pretty much in every post race interview that you'll see an announcement maybe tomorrow or in the next couple of days. And they've told me they want Sunoda. I'm hoping that I'll be a reserve driver. I'm hoping my performances can help me make a comeback in 2022, and so on. So I think that the junior drivers making come through will definitely be on the agenda. There's Mick Schumacher, there is the bad boy Nikita Mazepin that we're looking forward to. Yeah, and there's always George Russell, what else he can do. I mean, he's no longer going to be an inexperienced Formula One driver, right?
Yeah.
So lots of new blood coming in. There's Yuki Tsunoda, as we are hoping would come through. There's Fernando Alonso. So the driver lineups in different teams will definitely excite all of us, I would say. I think the only big team that doesn't have a driver lineup change, as we know, is Mercedes. Okay, and the changes in the car floors and the changes that they're trying to make to aerodynamics, to try and even out some of the performance advantages. That's going to be interesting to see if teams have made some gains or not. There are token systems in place so that teams can upgrade a few things and spend some tokens on that. So you sort of have to
Hmm.
prioritize what you want to upgrade. And then the best is what McLaren will spend their tokens on, getting a championship winning Mercedes power unit at the back of their cars.
So much, just so much to discuss at depth. That's after Christmas. We're going to be shooting our season preview videos after that one. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff on the Inside Line Formula One podcast and Pits to Podium. Stay tuned. That's all I can say. The frequency might decrease because, of course, the races are not going to be as frequent. In fact, they're not going to be there at all. What am I saying? But we'll be coming up with more exciting content all the way through until the season begins when the cycle, as we all know, already starts. But, folks, it's been an epic year. We're so glad to have you along listening, so glad to have you along watching, participating as well in the Pitch to Podium Grand Prix prediction competition. It overwhelms us. Just we're hoping that we can provide you better content and more of what you need next year as well. So we're hoping for much better things in that department. But I'll take a minute, Kunal. Generally, it's been an epic year hosting these videos as well. My game has been
Absolutely.
upped. My game has been upped. Being selfish in this case, I did not have a very natural style of speaking before this, but these videos, being next to someone like you who's been in the sport so much, who's done so much, just having that different perspective as well changes things. And honestly, it's been epic. But there's more coming, of course.
It has been epic, and likewise for me as well. It's great to be discussing the sport with you among all the other things that you and I end up discussing. It's great to be pushing ourselves into, deeper into stats, deeper into, perspectives and insights and the
Hmm.
business of Formula One. And we've already heard from so many listeners and viewers, of the Inside Line F1 podcast and Pits to Podium, of how fantastic an addition you've been, to the
Hmm.
Inside Line F1 podcast, of course, and Pits to Podium is all your brainchild, from the start, Soumil. So it's great to be doing this with you for one season and for the several seasons to follow.
Guys, I'm going to be shameless in plugging another thing up. Sundaram is also coming up with an epic award show of sorts. So Sundaram is a part of our team. Excellent in stats. If you haven't already, check out our stats review. We're going to have that on the MP Formula One page. I'll link everything down in the description. There's a lot coming up. It's not going to be a quiet winter, folks. It's going to be a fun one. But until then, we shall see you very shortly. It's been a lovely year. Too much of the emotional stuff. See you soon. That's the thing. We're going to have a lot more stuff coming up. Thank you so much, Kunal. Thank you so much for watching, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Stay here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Soumil. And I'm sure I'll speak to you soon, even if it doesn't get released as a video.
Ah, definitely. See you, folks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.